Hello.
Hello.
You can do better than that. Hello. Hello. There we go. How's everybody doing? Okay. Right. Welcome to Fresh Blood In Old Tropes, also known as the panel where we will not make fun of sparkly vampires till at least 10 minutes in. Okay? We will be talking about traditions in writing and reinvigorating them, or maybe when it's time to put them to bed. We're going to have our fabulous panelists introduce themselves, and please tell us a little bit about yourself and what is the one trope you never, ever, ever want to see again?
Can we come back to me?
Yes.
I'm Errick Nunnally. I'm an author and designer. I have 4 novels out there, a number of short stories. As a designer, designed a lot of book covers, interiors, and things like that. My latest novel, The Queen of Saturn and the Prince in Exile, is currently available. It's from Clash Books, but it's wherever fine books are sold. And let's see here, a trope that I would love to see die. Damn it, Cabretti, this time you've gone too far. You got 24 hours to fix this. You can't take my badge. I'll quit. That stuff.
Okay, Daniel.
Hi, I'm Daniel Myers. I'm a database programmer, writer, and food historian, and I'm loud, so I know they can hear me in the back of the room. I do a lot of short stories, some cookbooks, some fantasy cookbooks, academic works. The one trope I'd really like to see die: sparkly vampires.
Amen.
Too soon.
Yes.
2 minutes.
My name is Sean C.W. Korsgaard. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, award-winning photojournalist, and a proud father to a toddler. I am also a former editor at Fame Books, writer, and current publisher of Anvil and Battleborn magazine, because there are certain sword and sorcery and heroic tropes I not only love, I am trying to find more of them. As for the ones I cannot stand, subversion for shock value.
Okay. And I'm Richard Dansky. I'm your moderator. Sorry. Oh, good. I am Richard. I write for video games. I used to write for tabletop role-playing games. If you have met someone in a bar dressed as a vampire, that's probably my fault. And my next book coming out, on top of some novels and short story collections, is The Video Game Writer's Guide to Surviving an Industry That Hates You. And the trope that I want to see die, despite having worked for White Wolf for 4 years, is sensitive vampires.
It's sparkly.
So I was trying to think of tropes that are funny to answer this question, and unfortunately, the only ones I can think of that I really want to see die are kind of dark, like the idea that that one group is civilized and the other is savage. Like let's throw that in the trash.
So let's talk about these old tropes. Why do we keep on going back to the same wells? What's the appeal of going back? What are the advantages of going to the familiar?
We're going to jump around. We're going to start down there.
So start down there.
All right.
For a writer, tropes are like tools. They're dependable, reliable, and you know how other people have used them before. Of course, like any tool, they can be used wrong. A hammer can either build you a house or break one of your fingers. And for readers, it's like a cheeseburger. There are many kinds of cheeseburgers. Do you want McDonald's? Do you want Five Guys? Do you want some gourmet thing? Or do you want like some foie gras, fancy, rarefied cheeseburger? You know what you like, and you never get tired of it. That's the thing with cheeseburgers and with tropes. You can never have just one.
Gotta think about that now.
I know, who wants lunch?
See, he started talking immediately. I started putting fingers in the cheeseburgers.
To be fair, you did go off on cheeseburgers in our last panel together as well. So
Yeah.
I am sensing a trope.
I'm very food oriented. I have to admit that.
9 minutes.
Sorry.
Errick, save us.
I'm going into the hours here.
I would say familiarity. If a familiar thing is comforting, but it's also a good place to start as a shorthand.
Yes.
You can can just sort of jump right into something once if you understand the framework, and then you can break it.
Well, okay, I'll go back in now that out of the penalty. It's easy. That's the other part. It's not only it's a tool, but sometimes it becomes the default, and it becomes easy, and which is easier for the reader to pick up on. But after a while, you see it often enough, and you get really, really tired of it. No, sorry, still stuck on the fingers and cheeseburgers.
Well, Errick kind of basically said what I was going to say. It is a type of shorthand. Readers are familiar with tropes because they've seen them before, and they've seen them before because we've been telling stories for a very long time. And even if we try to be original in how we do our storytelling, there are still only so many things that you can use because we've done them. It's putting a twist on how we do those things, which is why we're here.
Okay, anybody got anything else on this?
I'm just trying to stop thinking about cheeseburgers.
One thing actually I really like to see is, ruined Eric's life. One of the things, I've been watching a lot of UK television, police procedurals lately. And Shetland is the one my wife and I watch now as our little evening together time.
Please tell me they have little stumpy like police dogs.
You do see the horses and the sheep in the background. But the thing that really struck me as I'm watching, like, we're in the fourth season, how often the antagonist does not get killed at the end. And compare that to American television, where almost every single time the antagonist ends up dying before they can be brought to justice. It bothers me now. So, all right, done.
Okay. This is the panel you chose to record. I'm just putting that out there. Okay, so you've got a trope, you're tired of it. What pushes you over the edge to decide, I'm going to reinvigorate this, I'm going to reinvent this, and how do you go about that? Yes.
Okay, this is a very exciting question because, for me, I mean, because the book that I'm working on right now is doing exactly this. How many of you are familiar with the show What We Do in the Shadows? Okay, I figured a lot of you would be. I love that show, and it got me thinking when I first started watching it. I think it was 2021 when I first watched it, and I immediately thought, "Ooh, I want to do a YA novel version of this, but with vampires from Hindu and Buddhist folklore." So I'm currently working on that, and that will be my next book. But the point is, that to me was because I've seen I think that really bothers me, and I've ranted about this on other panels already, but I think that really bothers me because we have Western supremacy, imperialism, colonialism. What ended up happening is that we have all, whatever our background, we have all learned to view a certain set of stories as the default, and everything else is niche. So, for example, we're all familiar with Dracula. But do you know what a Dracula is? You probably don't. That is a vampire type of vampire, or a Rakshas from the Hindu and Buddhist. You may know the word Rakshas because D&D appropriated that stuff. But they did. They took a lot of Indian stuff, and ruined it. But if you didn't play D&D, you probably would not be familiar with that term. And that's what I'm talking about. That we don't celebrate global mythology and folklore the way that we should. And one way that you can get frustrated because you only see the same thing happening over and over and over and over and over until it's a carbon copy of a carbon copy that's been done so many times that you can't even read it anymore. You can look at a different part of the world, as long as you're doing it respectfully, and try to figure out why that culture has those creatures, and then write your own vampire story.
Thank you. Errick?
Spite. So the novel I mentioned, the Queen of Saturn, etc., is a coming-of-age novel, and I hate coming-of-age novels. I absolutely loathe them, and it's because just about everyone I've encountered, and it's not that they're not well done, somebody's going to find them entertaining, they're not bad. It's that it's typically this little white kid who grew up in a small town or in the countryside, and you know, it's very idealistic and nostalgic. And I could never see myself in that stuff. And the genesis of the novel was basically spite and harassment, because I told some stories from my childhood in public, which was a mistake. And some friends harassed me for months. Oh man, you gotta write a story like that. You gotta sound like I don't want to write a story like that. It's, you know, I hate coming of age stories. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. And something that Paul Tremblay said about home invasion stories. Like, he's like, I hate home invasion stories, and so he wrote one that he would want to read, right? And that became a movie. What was it? The Knock at the Cabin Door. And so I was like, you know, yes, okay. So I should write a coming of age story that I like, and that's the subversion of it. To actually look at it through a different lens, a completely different setting, very different set of values. You know, everything for me, from my perspective, was different, even though it is a pretty well-established trope, right? That happens all the time. So yeah, that's how that happens. Spite.
Yeah.
That's very motivating.
And actually, I would agree with Errick on that, definite spite. I hate time travel stories. Specifically, I hate time travel stories where they go back in time, change something, when they get back, it didn't happen, everything's fine. This is just, it was all a dream, all over again. I hate that. Then I was asked to write a time travel story for a book. And,
Oh boy. Well,
like,
somebody else to pay you.
and so now I've got both parts in my brain of, I hate time travel stories. No, I'm going to show them all. And so I have to figure out, I got to figure out a way to go back in time and change things so that it didn't happen, but not feel like the cheat of, you know, I did it. They go back in time, it changes things, but it's not actually going back in time, it's unwinding time back to a certain point, and then it goes forward again. Of course, if it does everything the same way each time, it'll keep going back and unraveling and re-knitting. So eventually it gets to a point where it does something different, and then they never have gone back in time. And that works, in my head at least. It really confused some people.
What book is this?
It was in, I think it was Time Travel Tales Volume 2. And, oh my God, I don't remember my own story title. It's in there. I can find it for you if you come up with it later.
So what I was sick to death of is actually sort of the reverse of that. I'm sick of spite being the main motivator in the fantasy genre. Darkness, grimdark, subversion of the usual tropes. Yes, it's true to life for heroes to die, people die in horrible deaths, the bad guys winning. But newsflash, it's called fantasy, George Martin. I'm sick to death of every other fantasy being a depressing, non-heroic, thin reskin of medieval history that isn't even accurate to medieval history. I want stories about heroes. I want bad guys to suffer consequences, preferably a sword through the gut. I want you to feel good at the end of a story, and that's what I've tried to do as a writer and a publisher, is try to seek out that sort of classical, heroic fantasy that just makes you feel like you're 13 years old reading Conan, The Lord of the Rings again for the first time. Fantasy that makes you feel good, not that you need an antidepressant and remember again, you'll never get that sick book.
So your imagining of a trope is actually to unwind it to the trope that trope is reaction against.
People say that you can only hear so many guitar solos. They are wrong. You never get tired of guitar solos, a good bourbon, a good steak. There's nothing wrong with enjoying what you enjoy. You don't need to subvert it just for the sake of shock value or being new.
Or a cheeseburger.
Okay. So, following up on that question, when you make the decision to take a trope and do something new with it. How do you approach it? With intentionality, or just let's see where this goes, or is there just a gut reaction you follow? Start that line.
So again, use sword and sorcerer as an example. One of the greatest characters in the genre is Errick of Melniboné. Show of hands, who's read Michael Moorcock? Okay, so all of you have homework. But Michael Moorcock loved sword and sorcery, and more to the point, back in an age when everyone else in the genre poo-pooed Robert E. Howard, Conan, and all that is childish pulp, he defended it. But then as a writer, thought of, okay, I want to make a character in the genre that's the opposite of Conan. Conan's dark-skinned, mine's an albino. Conan's got muscles upon muscles. He is so sick he needs magic potions to be able to lift his sword. Oh, and that sword? It's evil, sentient, eats the souls of his enemies, and if he's really unlucky, his friends. And from that we got the entire multiverse. Also, Michael Moorcock invented the multiverse. Blame or thank him at your peril. But he did something new that still stayed true to the spirit of the original by understanding the appeal of the original. He didn't have to destroy it to make something wildly different.
Interesting. It'll take me a while to digest that, and I'll interrupt myself later. The trope, as at least in my opinion, like we said, essentially is a tool, is a shortcut, is the easy answer a lot of times. Which means if you don't have that easy answer, you're going to have to find a different answer. And in some, I think that is actually a really fun thing as a writer, because it forces you to go a different direction. And according to the stories there, you know what you're going to do with the story, kind of, sort of, usually. You're going to have to find some way of achieving that goal at the end that without the trope. So yeah, I think regardless of what you want to do, you're forced into a certain set of actions. You're forced to develop a new path. And everything's going to flow from having rejected or changed that trope.
I think very purposeful whenever I do it. Like a police procedural, like they're satisfying. Like I really enjoy watching someone investigate something and unravel a mystery. But that can take place in a lot of different places. So, for instance, I wrote a short story that's in an RPG universe, and it's uplifted animals. What's it called? The Monarchies of Mao. And just about everybody else in the anthology wrote high fantasy stuff, within the universe, which is fine. Do what you enjoy. But I was like, man, I could probably put a police procedural in here somehow. I could do a Sherlockian thing. Like I've never written a mystery. I would love to. And putting it, creating a weird detective was a lot of fun with this female cat whose son is coming back from medical school, and off we go.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And same thing with I really love that movie Outland, which is a sheriff, right?
You take off high noon.
Yeah. He's in an isolated place. I think in the movie it's Venus, like the isolated place is Venus, and they're mining Venus. It's a mining colony. He's policing it. And I also love the misplaced characters who are solving crimes, right? Like for instance, I have this idea and I haven't done it yet. I don't know if I ever will. The first black FBI agents, there were 6 of them, I believe, but they weren't field agents necessarily, because this was the president and the director of the FBI trying to break the barrier. It wasn't really safe to have them out in the field doing things. But how interesting would it be if one of those guys had to solve a crime, possibly unarmed and without a whole lot of support? It's just way more interesting than someone who has all of their agency and all the support that they need.
Also, Name of the Rose.
Oh yeah,
Sean Connery, the monk
yeah.
to solve a murder.
The monk solving murder. Yeah. Interesting.
Or Terry Pratchett, Guards.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a trope.
It's a trope, but it's,
Yeah, I agree with that part of it, but one of the things that drives my storytelling is looking for what I haven't seen done yet. So how can I take, so it's very purposeful, very intentional how I play with things. For example, I really love colors. And so I thought, I was thinking, oh, I would love to eat colors. And then it occurred to me, okay, why don't I write a story about a color vampire? So I did. And not that I'm hard on vampires, but just the idea of what haven't I seen before, that's how I make it new. And I feel like there are endless, whether it's putting an old situation or an old trope in a new situation, like you were saying, that makes it fresh. That opens up all kinds of possibilities that weren't there before because we haven't seen that 100 million times already. So always looking at things with intentionality.
Is this a whimsical thing? Like, the vampire bites somebody, it doesn't kill them, but they're drained completely of color. Now they're black and white for the rest of the day.
Actually, it was more like a gray void you can't really register. That was a tragic story, but
So it's
I
dark.
But I like the concept so much that I'm using it again in the vampire novel. Like, send us time stuff.
So we've talked about how using a trope is really sort of shorthand to the audience. The sandbox comes pre-constructed, you know what the boundaries are, and you can play in that space without having to describe the whole world. We've also talked about the appeal of reinventing these tropes. How far can you go safely before you lose the benefit of the original concept? Daniel, why don't you start us off?
What was the question?
Do you want a cheeseburger?
Yeah, right. That's an odd. How far can you go?
Or to put it another way, sparkly vampires.
If you subvert the trope too far, they won't recognize the trope. Well, this is a ship of Theseus argument in some ways. You're replacing and subverting the trope so much that it's no longer recognizable as the original trope. It's not. Is it there? I don't have an answer for that. That's. Or I do, and it'll take a nice philosophy paper. I can get a good credit on that.
Can
I don't know. You stumped me on that.
Yes, please.
Okay, I was going to say, I think it's, when does it stop serving the story you're trying to tell?
Oh, okay.
That's when you've gone too far.
Very good.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I'm going to go grand on this one. Indo-European mythology. There is a stretch of this planet from India to Ireland, 4 billion people who share a genetic heritage and mythology with a tribe from around the Caspian Sea 4,000 years ago. And yet, you'd never say that Hindi mythology and Irish
Oh, Hindi is a
mythology.
language.
Sanskrit.
Hindu mythology.
Hindu.
And Sanskrit is also a language.
There. Hindu mythology or Irish mythology are exactly the same. They may have some common DNA, but they go in very, very divergent directions. It may be a sandbox. You may have the same structure, but what you build with it is up to you. Maybe it could be a castle, maybe it could be a person. You may have a strapping young man with muscles on the front of your book with a sword, but is it an adventure novel or a romance? Where you go with it is up to you.
Does he have a shirt?
Again, is it a sword and sorcery or a Harlequin romance? Could be either one. Maybe it's both. Romance is the thing now. But the thing you don't want to do is be the guy who craps in the sandbox, because then you just ruin it for everybody.
Eric?
I got nothing. No, I think that your answer was perfect.
The most useful, yeah.
The most useful. But yeah, if it's not serving the story.
And also, sorry to call you out, but people make this mistake a lot, and I really want us to be careful about that.
Not a problem.
And you appreciate it.
I learned something today.
And I know it's very difficult to know when what you're doing isn't serving the story. But as much as it feels like we're working in a vacuum when you're creating something, you're at some point going to be involving other people for review, editing, research, etc., etc. That's when you'll find out.
You're part of a storytelling tradition that's as old as, I guess, human sentience. Odds are somebody's done something similar before. What's your version of it?
Okay. So, dig into personal media consumption. What is one example of somebody reinventing a trope that made you just go, yeah, that's how you do it? Shveta, why don't you start with this?
This happens to me every time. I will have a million examples, and then when you ask me, I can't think of one. Can we come back to me and I'll try to.
We can do that.
For me, that would probably be two authors, Lilith St. Croix and Nancy Collins. Nancy Collins, for me, really reinvented what vampires were at the height of urban fantasies, popularity. She brought them back to brutality and introduced an ecosystem where they would not be apex. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And Lilith St. Croix, and I'm blanking on the name of the novel series, and it's about a lady who's a demon hunter. And just an utter badass, which I liked, but she was also vulnerable. She also grew and changed over time. She had blind spots. So that was again taking a genre that I really enjoyed and elevating it. So at that point, this vampires and urban fantasy, broadly speaking, entirely tropish at that point. And I gotta remember the name of the novel series. It reads like this.
You know the one you're talking about is white covers with black silhouettes and like red title. Yeah.
Yeah, the first book that came to mind, and I'm not sure it qualifies, was Flying Saucers by Larry Niven and David Gerald.
That's apparent.
Yeah, they're neat, both neat people, but but the problem is, I'm not sure how much it reinvented tropes, but I think it did. It was also satirical, comical, and had a lot of tongue-in-cheek pokes at the writing industry, buried into this high magic, whimsical fantasy. I'm gonna have to, that's the closest I can get right now.
I'm not familiar with this book. This is Larry Niven and
David Gerald.
David Gerald's my favorite writer.
It was late 70s.
Okay. I'm glad.
The Chronicles of Hanover by Howard Andrew Jones is probably the most recent example. Very firmly rooted in that heroic fantasy tradition, but diverges in a lot of very interesting ways. His hero, Hanover, is based on Hannibal of Carthage, but as a middle-aged man, late middle age, his 50s, his bones are starting to creak. He's starting to not be as fast as he used to be. His journey starts when his people and his city, he's already lost the big war against Rome. His people have been carried off into bondage. He is by himself, and is now forced to, as a middle-aged man, come up with how he's going to free them all from slavery and get them out of control of the empire that conquered them. So half the time he has to be clever about it, as opposed to just cutting his way through all of his problems. And yet he's still rooted in that heroic tradition. He's honest, he's virtuous, he doesn't mistreat people for the sake of it. He tries to even avoid killing his enemies if he can. There's a nobility to the character that, I guess after 10 years of everybody aping either Joe Abercrombie or all those dark, twisted heroes that do awful things to worse people, very refreshing.
Okay, I thought of one. It's a high fantasy by Laini Taylor called Strange the Dreamer. And the main character, Laszlo Strange, is a very gentle librarian, and he is the hero who ends up having to go on a quest. And I love the fact that he breaks his nose, for example, reading the Book of Fairy, when the Book of Fairy Tales falls on him, he breaks his nose. And he's very empathetic. He gives people the benefit of the doubt. And it was nice to see a character who cares about others' feelings and is curious about the world, rather than the usual depiction of male heroes who are very brash and just come through with violence and do whatever they need to do in service of their mission without really caring how they affect the others around them.
Okay, and I'm going to jump in and say the first time I watched Babylon 5, they had a space battle and a ship blew up and there was actual honest-to-God debris. Star Trek never had debris. Star Wars, nobody had debris. And I remember sitting there in the living room with some friends I was watching it with, and one of my friends went, "Chunks! There's chunks!" That said everything you need to know about that science fiction universe, and all the other stuff, all the character stuff, the betrayals, the deep motivations, that you could map from that attention to detail and the understanding that this universe did in fact have trash left over after the fancy stuff had ended. So that was it for me. Okay, so the next question we're not going to do because we're recording. So let's go past that.
Oh, come on, let's do it.
Okay. You ready for this?
Sure.
What's the one reinvention of a trope that made you go, "Oh God, make it stop"?
Redeeming the villain. I hate when books, especially when you've already seen him do we have all kinds of villains, do horrific things, and then they try to redeem them. Or worse, sleep with them. Yes, I'm sure that's exactly what would have fixed Hitler or Stalin, getting their bones jumped. No, defeat the bad guy. That's the entire point of this fantasy.
Are you thinking of Buffy? Is that where this is coming from?
I mean, not even just Buffy. I mean, it's an upsettingly common trope
Yes.
in modern fantasy where if only I can fix him. He just burned a village to the ground. You don't want to fix him.
Or have it fixed. You know what's coming. You ready? Sparkly vampires. Sorry, you want me to go on about sparkly
No.
vampires? I can put a cheeseburger in.
There's only one sense, Sparky. Thank you.
Don't jinx it.
Now you've done it.
You have spoken us into being, Errick. We will all suffer for it.
As
Work out in
much,
my head now.
as much as I enjoy, cowboy films, like old West films, like the absolute dead-eye shot is like, are you kidding me? Like, the technology wasn't even close enough at the time, and you're just doing these incredible pistol work. It doesn't have to be like it's a little too far.
Fire the gun from behind the back.
Yeah.
Double ricochet, nothing but that.
Yeah, from a mirror. And,
I like to think
with
that's
the gun next to your ear, 'cause that's good.
That's always good.
I like to think it's not because they're trying to be accurate, it's just because Clint Eastwood is just that good.
The return to status quo after the hero or heroine
Yeah.
goes to bring down the equivalent of the empire or monarchy or horrible government, whatever it is, somehow by the end, everything has gone back to the way it was, yet now our protagonist is part of it, but we're somehow led to feel like change has occurred.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to ask that people put the Necronomicon down and back away slowly. There's still good stories told in that universe. The Ballad of Black Tom is an absolutely brilliant piece of writing. But if all you're going to do is string together some consonants and apostrophes and some made-up books and put it in Massachusetts, hard pass.
Just once I went over a couple of Lovecraftian fiction where they talk like Southeast from Boston. The Departed, but Lovecraft.
I would so be down for that.
Are you a cultist?
Well, you know what? Speaking of that, just to make a recommendation, John Goodrich, he writes cosmic mythology like that. He'll put it in places that you don't typically see, which is what made me start enjoying that whole thing because I could keep scanning Lovecraft.
Now I'm just imagining Cthulhu with the Duncan and it's going dark places.
Duncan and Dragons.
What better way to say it?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, so restoring order. Are old tropes an easier sell or a harder sell these days?
What counts as an old trope?
That's up to you.
Because I don't know how to answer that until.
I'd say harder, because I'm thinking of things like Merlin, the whole Merlin thing, and doing like King Arthur stuff, and all those really archetypal stories that have just been around for way too long. I think they are a hard sell, so you really have to do something different with it, or you start out someplace that you wouldn't recognize it, until it happens. Something.
Yeah, that's the thing. If
It's
it's
a reimagining.
Yeah,
old enough
real
and
age.
obscure enough, then it becomes easier.
Yes.
But if it's something old that everybody, like Merlin, no.
Yeah, I think it just turns people off. Like, why would I buy that? We've done a million of these.
There's another Dracula movie coming out.
Yes, and it's like a carbon copy of the previous Bram Stoker's Dracula, right? But I figured.
Again, we can do so many new things with vampires. Why are we not?
Why are we still
I'm
retreading
sorry for
that?
them just being evil again.
But no sparkles.
Don't worry, there are no sparkly vampires in my book either.
Okay, can we have a question from the audience here?
Yeah, so I'm actually curious about what is your specific gripe with sparkly vampires? Please let me finish though, seriously. Because, I mean, I imagine that you're referring to Stephenie Meyer's Twilight series, whatever. And I don't know if this is a specific gripe with the fact that the vampires have like weird mythology and it's just not consistent, or if it's because they're being used in a way where they're more of a love interest as opposed to a monster, or because this is a series that was specifically targeted towards like a specific audience of girls or whatnot. Like, is the issue that they are like romance figures? What is the problem here, genuinely?
And actually, because I'm the one who keeps bringing it up. Okay, and part of it is just because it's funny. But I do have a legitimate gripe with this, and what it comes from is my background in anthropology and folklore, in that the vampires themselves out of folklore have a very specific purpose. And the original vampirism, most of the vampirism folklore has to do with turning away from Judeo-Christian.
It depends on what country you're
Depending,
talking
now,
about.
and I am correct. I am talking strictly about the European vampires.
And thank you for being specific.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, where we have to be careful.
We do it. Thank you. And because of that, there are a lot of characteristics and associations built into the vampire folklore. And in the, when did Stephenie Meyer start? Was that 90s?
2000.
Late. In that time period, it's part of the fashion of making what used to be negative stereotypes or negative themes into positives. It's sort of like an extension of the glam rock from when we were short. Yeah, so you want to make your vampire a positive, sexy character, which is fine, because again, that is changing a trope. But at some point, you have negated everything that came along with the folklore. So, in reality, I don't see that they're horrible, sparkly vampires. I see them as they're sparkly, they're what they are, but that's not a vampire because
They've been defamed.
you've taken away the very vampire essence and made it into something else, which is fine. I mean, I can go ahead and make a Greek blueberry pie that's going to have garlic and lamb and rice, and yes, it's going to be very Greek, but it's no longer a blueberry pie. Again, it's one of these ship of Theseus arguments.
Well,
how much do you change?
Let me say this about Twilight, because you made a great point that the lore in that it's inconsistent and weird, and you know
Badly written.
Yeah, it just doesn't serve it. It's not consistent, right?
It's also racist.
Yeah. But the like weirdo nerds focus on that aspect of it and kind of start hating on it for its weird inconsistencies and things like that. And it's, you know, the story is really just a teenage love story. It's a really generic teenage love story. And it really falls into the category of liking what you like. And I think it was so popular because that's the aspect that most people focused on. And then us weirdo nerds are like, it's not a vampire, that doesn't work that way. I don't understand why it
But I do want to thank you for that question, because there is, as somebody who, I mean, I don't just write young adult, but there's definitely a tendency to devalue literature aimed at younger people, especially younger girls. So thank you for noting that.
One other thing that might be relevant on that one is there was actually a panel here at GenCon last year celebrating the anniversary of Ravenloft. And the entire crew behind designing it, we're talking about what went into designing Lord Strahd. And they went off on their own tangent about what's wrong with modern vampires. And the root of the mythos is that you are essentially trying to sexualize the shark from Jaws. And worse, you're trying to do that to a monster that was used as a metaphor for sexual assault. And you're making him a hunky romance lead. Like, your vampires, it's sort of like how I hate that they're doing the same thing to demons or orcs now. You're taking monsters that were specifically created to be warnings against certain cultures, behaviors, and you're turning them into Leonardo DiCaprio, or Kate Winslet, as the case may be. And that betrays what they're about. There are some places where, like you said, at some point, you've taken that cheeseburger or that blueberry pie and turned it into something alien and potentially gross.
Oh, very creepy.
What's the weird?
Only it has tzatziki sauce.
Okay, so we have about 8 minutes left. We'll take a couple questions.
I'm gonna jump off that. I really appreciate that question too. That was fascinating to listen to. Mine's a sillier version of it though. Can I ask, I'm writing books about where my characters are gamers, and I'm in the romance world, so trope land. And I would love to know what your favorite and or least favorite tropes about gamers, about nerdy folks are. What would you love to see gone, and what would you love to see separated?
Well, first, the idea that you'll only ever see guys gaming, only white guys, and anybody else who does it something must be wrong with them, and that all these people are somehow asocial threats to society.
Yeah, I think,
Antisocial.
I think that someone who's a horribly broken introvert, like, those people exist, but it's like not everybody doing gaming does that, and it's all a scale, and it's,
You'll find those people in any group.
yeah, so, yeah, classifying them all as like weirdly introverted people is something.
Look at how the Big Bang Theory portrayed nerds and then do the exact opposite. I mean, just look around this room. Now, I mean, I'm not insulting anybody to say that we're all nerds here, right? And they come in all shapes, sizes, genders, beliefs, backgrounds. I mean, for God's sakes, Joe Magnolio has been playing D&D for 50 years, and he would break me on his knee like a twig.
Mangiello?
Mangiello, thank you.
And something.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
How many people here have seen Big Bang Theory? All right. How many people in here have seen Better Off Ted?
For community.
Both of those, both Better Off Ted and Big Bang Theory deal with nerds. But they deal with it in a very different way. I love Better Off Ted. I just can't cope with Big Bang Theory. I watch that, I feel made fun of. Now, mind you, the people in Better Off Ted are just as nerdy and geeky and dysfunctional. But I feel like I'm watching my friends.
It feels like they were written with love.
Yeah.
I
One
was
is
working
written
with the
by
nerds
nerds,
now.
one is written about nerds.
And if you go online, there are actually episodes of Big Bang Theory with the laugh track removed. It's just a dialogue, and you sit there and go, oh my God, these people are horrible. Okay, question back.
Yeah, so I find myself really attracted to story ideas that come with subverting tropes. Like one of my ones I went to is kind of like, what if this story was another character's perspective? Like, what if Harry Potter was from Neville's perspective? But I also find myself going so far down that thing that I think it's also a little bit of ego thing of I have to subvert the trope, I have to do something new, that I feel like I limit myself off from accepting like sometimes tropes are okay, some like you don't always have to be different. And I was wondering if you have any encouragement to like try to calm yourself down and reroute into, you don't have to subvert, like you can accept tropes, etc.
Yes, as somebody who said that part of what drives my storytelling is looking for something new. The thing to remember is that ultimately, you're not writing anything new. What you're doing is changing the texture maybe, just giving a new lens for something, but you're not gonna come up with something that's wholly original, and that's fine. We need to be able to understand what you're writing. If you came up, as Justin Larbalestier said one time, if we did have something that was wholly new, none of us would know what to do with it. Because we're all interfacing with the whole tradition of literature, of storytelling. So let yourself do it as long as it feels fun, right? If it stops feeling fun, you're allowed to stop trying to go more original at that point.
Anybody else?
Tropes are tools. What you build with the hammer is up to you. Just as long as you're not smashing it to bits, and it sounds like you understand the material. So, build something creative with it.
So I would say, ask yourself why you are making that particular change. And if you have a good answer, great, run with it. If it's for the sake of change, then maybe reconsider. Any other questions?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about how a lot of these tropes are rooted in like moral or ethical bases, and also kind of those inversions, how you can make that be something that's very powerful. And in an ideal world, you turn that into a love letter to that trope or that inversion of the trope. So how do you stay away from turning the sexual assaulter into a hero, and instead ensure that that trope inversion is actually a love letter to that thing you're trying to show?
Understanding the material. I mean, again, use the fantasy equivalent. Michael Moorcock looked at Conan the Barbarian and turned him into Elric of Melniboné. Visually, could not be more different. Approach to the storytelling, radically different. And yet, they still have the common sword and sorcery tropes: action focused, pulp style, weird world building, and still dedicated to heroics even at the cost of their very lives or fortunes. There is not a betrayal of it like there is in, say, George R.R. Martin's riff on Conan the Barbarian, which was killed off unsummarily in some civil war with the Targaryens. Because, Conan wouldn't live forever as a mercenary and become a king. He'd die of sepsis after a battle. Yes, George, that's why we're reading fantasy. Sorry, tangent.
I like Terry Pratchett's Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, the aged warrior who's now aged out of all the wars. That's. If you've never read Trollbridge, it's a free short story by him. It's basically your Conan type talking with the last troll who still wants to act like a troll, both bemoaning the fact they've outlived the wars they fought.
And they asked Conan the Barbarian what the greatest things in life were, and he said, soup and soft toilet paper.
Okay, and we are out of time. I'm starting no more questions. Everybody just want to give one last parting thought to our audience?
To help understand how you can infuse old tropes of new blood, read books that are outside what you normally read.
Yes.
I say follow your instincts and love what you do. You have to be the first, and other people will pick up on it.
Trust your gut, read what you like, write what you love, and within reason, don't be motivated out of spite or wanting to destroy what other people love. That path almost never leads to good work. Not in the long term.
I think the short version of that is don't pee in other people's Wheaties.
Or don't serve them a salad when they order a burger.
And we will close on the cheeseburger. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you for a fabulous crowd. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you, everybody.
I have Atlanta.
Mr. Myers.
Was it for long?
One of those words I don't have to say very often.
On paper or in practice?
Oh, well,